So welcome to another exploration into consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. Welcome, welcome. And to all those that have come back from a long time absence, Jody, good to see you again. Good, good, good. And our topic today is intention-focused awareness. Intention-focused awareness. Non-local reality. Starting to really look into remote viewing, but not from a place of mysticism, not from a place of spirituality, just from a place of observation. Because we've done enough, we have enough intelligence and knowledge in this group to know, to sort of understand that there is obviously a multidimensionality, different dimensions, and the only limitation for us not to be completely aware of that is time. But we can take time out as well. We can take time and space out of the equation and look at it simultaneously as an observer and go straight into the observation. So we're probably going to talk a little bit about the Akash in terms of not what it is, because everybody on this show and who watches it probably knows what the Akashic record is. But we can make a nice little, summary of it. Everything that's happened to you, to anyone, to the collective, is stored in the universal mind. There are different Akashas. There's the universal Akash, there's the galactic Akash, there's your personal Akashic records. These are records, like an accounting system. Everything is recorded there and can literally be observed, can literally be looked up. And there's lots of people who call themselves Akashic record readers. And frankly, everyone who allows themselves not to have time and space be a limitation can look into all of that and extract that kind of information. And every single one, we can all look in the same record and extract different kind of information. Just like we're all sitting here, we all have different bodies, we all have different looks, different voices, because the filters and the DNA and the design of the body will always filter through a different kind of information that is very much tailored to, Marissa's coming in, to how we have perceived the world, what our awareness levels are, levels of consciousness, and of course, all our experiences and experimentations that we've been having over those millions and millions of years. So who wants to just say a little bit more than I just said about the Akashic record and maybe their experiences with it?
So from my perspective, there has been for a long time almost like an overlay on Earth. And it's almost like this is one timeline operating system. I think that's falling away from the higher frequency operating system. But I think that when we're looking at the Akashic records of Earth, I think that needs to be acknowledged, because it's almost been like there's been almost like a fake overlay Akashic record that's starting to sort of slip away. And what I noticed visiting that particular Akashic record is that there's always a lot of like dark rooms. Think about how a library has very dim light and is very dark. But when you're really connecting to the true Akash of Earth, that you're going to see almost like, I love that painting, Sandrine, that you have in the background, because it's almost like a cathedral of earth light. But like I think about how like the elf people in the Lord of the Rings series have created their whole villages made of these like natural elements, like the trees and the vines growing into rooms, right? And then light coming through. So my experience with the two different overlays on Earth is just that there are two. There's one that sort of was like chunked on top, and so you have to sort of do some energetic clearing and digging really to get to the Akashic record of Earth. But like you said, Martina, you know, there's the universal mind Akash, and there's an Akash for every planet. There you have your personal Akash. And what I noticed is sometimes you have to have also the proper credentials to get into certain spaces. You know, there's certain parts of that library that are restricted. Like not, you know, not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get in there. So there's, you know, there's also that aspect, right? Having the allowance to be able to read certain things. One of the things that was coming up really strongly for me this morning when I was looking at the intentional focused awareness, you know, taking out of that time space energy, was the Hollow Earth Embassy, in the Earth Nouveau Hollow Earth Embassy. And I immediately was taken there to just sort of like view what was going on. And there are these beings, they're almost like, I don't know if they're like, they sort of look kind of a combination between T-Rex beings and the traditional Middle Eastern golem. So almost like these beings that sort of look like they're made of earth or made of clay, but they have more of a dinosaur, but they're more like people. So I was watching them, you know, stock fuel for the fire and continue to feed that fuel to the fire. So that beacon in the Hollow Earth Embassy is burning very brightly, you know, as we are connecting, you know, every week, we're also adding that energetic fuel to that gathering place. And I also noticed that there's a lot of different types of beings, right, that hang out there at the embassy, especially around the fire. You know, it's like a world campfire where anyone is welcome, anyone can come and hang out and get warmth and be sustained. Yeah. So if you're a listener regularly and you haven't been to the Hollow Earth Nouveau Embassy, you know, take a little remote view visit there, because there is a lot of wonderful stuff happening, a lot of collaboration. And it feels like there is contract resolution happening there also. Like as you walk into one of the buildings, it's almost like a court, like a meeting place, a meeting court, where people can go in and have their cases heard, or you know, have things resolved. So, you know, I think as we're working from a perspective of connection, right, there's also the universal law aspect that allows us to come together and connect and release help people release old karma. You know, I know we've talked a lot about having resolved karma and being on a dharmic path, but there's still many people on the planet who are going through that resolution, on layering and resolution phase. And so, you know, if you need some assistance, drop into the Earth Nouveau Embassy, you know,
What's
and
the
ask
best
for
way
help.
to get there? Like,
Say, say
the best way to access?
I mean, for me, all I do is just state my intention and
Mhm.
it pops right up. You know, it's almost like when I'm visualizing something, I think energy goes where intention flows, right? So when you set the intention for something, what happens for me is it sort of just like pops up to my awareness. You know, think about like a bobber or a cork, right? That's gotten sunk down and now how sometimes loose, it just pops right up to the surface. So that's kind of my experience with all types of information, you know, and sometimes sometimes the energy comes from spirit, but usually it just pops up into my like knowingness and my awareness. Yeah. So, Martina, I think, have we done a meditation to go to Earth Nouveau Hub?
we
I
have
think
what I want to say to this, Tanya, this is just so great, because you see how everything is connected. Because I was talking to Sandrine yesterday and said, how are we gonna, initially we started, okay, let's do some exercises to just remote view some of our living rooms or something, and I said, okay, well, we're actually beyond that, so let's then just go into the Earth Nouveau. And that's exactly, that was part of that idea that I had. And then I did look up a meditation I've written in 21. It's quite a lengthy one, but it has a lot of information in it, so I can read that at the end of the show if we want to. But before we do that, we need to experiment. We have done many things, because many of our shows is where we're setting the context of sitting around the fire, and obviously, this is intention focused awareness. So what Tanya has just described is her intention is focused on the Earth Nouveau. And this is where the observer effect comes in. As you start observing something, it starts appearing. If you're not looking at it, it's a probability wave, but as soon as you look at it collapses, the wave collapses into the one particular particle. And that's what that is. And it's not even that you have to know anything about the Earth Nouveau. It's not even that Nouveau, inner Earth. It's not even that you need to be clued up or heard about AB talking or anyone else talking about it. It's just like, no, I'm just intending to focus my awareness on the inner Earth, and then just whatever comes up. And that campfire that we had created in the very beginning of our shows was just to help with the focus, to visualize ourselves to be around that campfire and putting more fire, more wood onto the fire, and see all those different beings. There are thousands of different beings down there. And I think what I love, Tanya, what you said is that fire is getting bigger and bigger. And why is it getting bigger and bigger? Because they are signaling up to us the connection, that it's time, because lots of those inner earthlings will start moving and literally come onto the subsurface and start allowing themselves to be seen. So we often get sidetracked and looking about the aliens, and everything looks up there, but in reality, the first ones that would really come through, all kinds of different species, Sasquatches and unicorns and dragons and all those ancestral beings and Neanderthals, all those ancestral beings that have retreated into the inner Earth. And they've been still living there. And not all of them are goody two shoes, by all means, no. Because not the majority, but a huge fraction of the inner Earth has been controlling subsurface, or surface rather. Interacting with the surface controller and keeping that whole galactic ascension machine running, keeping, us all in limitation and in slavery to the system that they have created. But there is now this awakening that's not just happening on the Earth, on the surface, but also on the inner Earth. And the battle that's happening on top of it is happening also underneath.
Microcosm is the macrocosm.
Exactly. And that's a really cool reminder. If you don't get anything out of this, whoever watches this again, other than don't just focus your intended awareness onto the above, because we are connecting the below, and there is a whole system that is structured underneath the surface. And it's not just, it's physical. The physical beings down there, the etheric beings down there, the as we've heard, the beings that living between the atoms and things like that. They have their own sun down there. They have their own water down there. It's a completely different world. And in so many of those, we call it fantasy, but it's perceived. It's written, and it's not that far away of what it is, right?
I mean, this morning I was okay. Tanya, thank you for bringing up the embassy, because for me, I have been talking with Martina quite a while already about an academy, because I think we need more to go into the, okay, I'm the investigator, I'm the researcher, so I need more of this investigative dialogos and going into, you know, academy and experiences as well, you see. And so just when you were mentioning the embassy, for me there was, and you were mentioning the courtyard, I just saw one gate there that says academy, you know, written right over it. So I'm like, nah, okay, there we go, thank you. This morning I was reading up on a newsletter of it's where they found out that people that have the Laron syndrome, which is dwarfism syndrome, that those might age much. So all the age-related diseases, cardiovascular or even diabetes, are much less developed in those people with that syndrome. And I was like, I said to Martina, look, they are dwarfs. We all know that dwarfs are getting older, are much older than we, you know. So it's 2024. We just found that out again, you know. So where did it get lost? That did not, in mythology knows that dwarfs are living longer, you know. I'm not here talking about 100 years, but they found out when they did the research on mice that they can live up to 40% longer. I mean, 40%, that's already, you know, if our expectancy is 60 years or 70 years, and now it's 70 up to going to 80, well, that's, you know, scratching on the 120. So yeah, that was, I just found this little bit this morning very funny when I was reading up on that.
Yeah.
And dwarfs are down there as well, I mean, for sure.
And as you said, why is that an article that is being written now is a good question, because, you know, who has started connecting to certain places, non-local reality places, aspects of consciousness that are not limited by space-time continuum. And they might not even know why they start writing about this, because they might have just had a dream or something, or just an impulse that sort of drives them or guides them to start writing about stuff like that. And we've heard this a lot with the Sasquatches, isn't it? Squatches or whatever they're called. There's so many of those, and because they're literally starting to be seen. People have actually started taking pictures of it, you know. And it's not a matter of that the camera quality is getting so good. It's actually because they're literally there.
We're
Right.
able to see them, right? It's like there's a frequency differential where maybe they were here and we were here energetically, and now those lines are as we raise in frequency, we can start seeing, right? It makes me think of where they used to call in some of the old Greek writings, the Mediterranean, the red wine sea, right? That people couldn't see those tones of blue.
Yes, exactly.
When they were holding that particular frequency, right? And so now when you think about the Mediterranean as a red wine sea, it doesn't look like that.
No.
To most of us now, it looks, you know, blue and green and azure and turquoise and all of those beautiful shades that frequentially at some point in our history, humans couldn't see those wavelengths or frequencies.
And it's
My
also
new boyfriend.
Yeah, that's it. That's her new friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, you know, if you don't know what you're looking at, sometimes you can't see it, isn't it? It's that. And as soon as there's a possibility, somebody mentions that that's a possibility, all of a sudden you can actually see it, start perceiving it, you know?
That goes back to the story of the Spanish ships, you know, as they sailed to the Yucatan to, you know, search for the New World gold. And the Mayan people couldn't even see the ships. They didn't have any context of what they were looking at. And so they just didn't see them. And Marissa texts, she was thinking the same story. And finally, it was the shaman, right, who could see into the unseen, right, who was able to say, oh, what the heck is that? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. That was even beyond intention. That was even beyond, our intention focused awareness. So if that is a possibility, has been, now just imagine the possibilities that we have once we actually put our intention to something. Now we've got Jen here now as well, and Jen, you are an Akashic reader, and you do workshops and help people to read the Akash. And I was wondering if you want to say a little bit about it, from your perspective, and then maybe also, I don't know, maybe you got a little exercise, we can start using to maybe practice a little bit. And then of course, at any time we can go into the inner earth as well.
Okay, so I was out in the hall just a minute ago, so I missed part of the conversation. I came in just in time to hear my name. So I've been reading the Akashic Records for about 8 years now, and had a lot of people in town asking for classes, so I started doing classes this year. And the way I learned it was accessing the records through prayer. But the way I feel most inclined to show people how to do it is really a matter of effectively giving them an attunement to it. And it's really just a matter of matching frequency to the records, right? If you can match yourself, just like we talk about all the time being a signature frequency match, if you can match your frequency to the frequency of the records, that's where the data really comes easy. So that's more of the process that I've been teaching.
Okay. So would you be happy to tell us a little bit about the attunement that you do? Is this something you can pass on to people, or is this something a bit too complex to go into now?
I can describe how I do it, and then if we wanted to put out an offer for people to join us on another week to get attuned to it, then I can be more prepared to give an attunement. But really, I do it more through a meditation. So I bring everybody into a meditative state through a guided meditation that I tend to do off the top of my head, but I elevate the frequency of the group to match that, and then I bring them through their own energy system into a pyramid to give them something to look at, and then guide them into like walking in and meeting their Akashic record guide and going into the Akashic records through there. So like I do it through a guided meditation, and I attune their frequency as I'm going through that, and then they can carry how that feels, how that smells, what that looks like, as how they bring in that access later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. And obviously Jane is available for Akashic record readings, so you can always get in touch with her and also check out her workshops and courses about it, so that yeah, go.
I've been doing a lot of things in person just because that's easier, and it's the people in town that have been asking me, but I am starting to offer like a Zoom option, and my next ones I'm going to be recording so that they can be available for download as well.
Fantastic.
Yay!
Fantastic. That's Jody say, maybe that's something you can get in touch with Jen if you want one yourself, or just get the recording of it and stuff, Exactly. So number one key is get yourself into a state of frequency that is sort of expanded. It's probably not huge, like 5-hour meditation or anything like that. It's just really saying, okay, I'm getting ready for this now. And then from there, it's almost like a springboard. Then you can go off. Are there any particular questions that you use, or are you working with the questions of the people?
When I do a reading, I always ask people to bring questions because everybody has questions. And then as you talk to them, their questions change. And so I write those down. For me, I do best having just a moment of quiet to be able to ask the answers, write them down, and then read them back to them. And then I have them do like turn on the voice recording function of their cell phone or something so that they can record it. If I do a Zoom one, I record it for them and send it to them so that they have that going forward. But a lot of times I get just general information for them anyway, who they are, what they're here to do. Sometimes ancestors come through wanting to give messages. So a lot of it is, messages that they need to hear that they haven't been able to receive themselves, and then answering their questions. And then in class, we go through different exercises of accessing the records and what kind of questions to ask. And then I, have people pair up, and they separate out into quiet spaces, and they do readings on each other. And so at first it's learning. Sometimes you don't get like, a full data stream when you first learn how. You get impressions or colors or a general feeling in your body. So just for some people, it's like the gateway modality, right? And so opening them up to what it feels like to receive information and how to perceive of it, and then how to discern too where it's coming from.
So how would you say, Jen, or anyone else who does that kind of work in a more detailed and structured way, what would you say is there a difference between an Akashic record reading and a psychic reading, an auric reading? How would you describe that?
Can be. Sometimes as I'm doing an Akashic record reading, I get other perceptions. It took me a while to figure out. Somebody had pressed me once to really identify where I was getting certain data streams, what's coming from my higher self, what's coming from psychic stuff, what's coming from the records. And so I learned to perceive of how I was receiving information. But I mean, as I'm doing a reading on somebody, I get the Akashic record reading more from their guides and their history, but at the same time, I can look at them and I can see health concerns. Like I get medical intuitive stuff, and I can see what's going on in their aura, and I can see things that are going around behind them. And so it innately follows that you use all of your tools and all of your perceptions, the more that you learn to perceive of them and discern them. And then you have to decide what you should share now and what you shouldn't. And so that's part of the learning process too, is like just because you see it doesn't mean you need to say it in that moment.
Yeah, it's that kind of discernment that Tanya brought up earlier as well, because not everything that you see is, as you say, relevant, or even a contribution to the person that you're reading, or even relevant, even true, because there's a lot of trickster stuff out there as well, depending on what kind of astral level you're stepping into, right? Now, everyone talks about those records as books in a hall of records, and and all of that. Do you guys, when you read, do you actually use the metaphorical representation of books? No.
Sometimes that will come up.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's just the information that is required that bobs up to the surface. And for me, in the work that I do, I see what's blocking people to connecting with their highest frequency purpose, and like what's blocking them between their source code light and the ground. How are they getting blocked, right? So usually in a session, that's what comes up for me. It's like whatever, and that seems to come off in layers and layers and layers, right? So if I'll see someone, more than once, like the first time, one layer will come up to the surface, and the second time, something else will come up to the surface. And occasionally, if there's some kind of thing that's blocking them, sometimes it will come up in book form. Sometimes it might even be sitting in their aura, right? Sometimes it might be handed to me by one of their team, right? Or sometimes it's just like right in front of them, as if they could trip over it.
So sorry, I was just going to read Jodi's comment here. The first time I did a reading, my library showed up as a white room with the records in drawers. So it was a complete bare room or stair, you know, and then you probably opened the drawers, right, and took out the records later on. Tell us.
Yeah, but I thought I did it wrong. So when I get there, I'm like, shouldn't this be a library? Shouldn't there be someone to talk to? Like, yeah, I question myself a lot. Like, images will come to me that are gut responses. And I think, oh, well, I'm thinking that because I remember that scene from a movie, or like I convince myself that I'm not really seeing it. So I'm trying to trust myself on that better, but now it shows up as like a big actual library with multiple floors, and then the book I'm reading is right, you know, on the table in front of me. So it kind of shows up differently each time I do it, and I just try to go with it because I'm finding my way.
Yeah. Jen, you were saying.
I don't personally read it from a book. Mine just downloads. Sometimes I'll get 3 data streams at the same time, and I'll have to like push 2 to the side to write it down. That's why I like to write it down, because it helps me go between different data streams. But when I teach it, I do often bring people into a library, because that's easy for them to relate to when they first start getting to know the energy, what it feels like to be there. Some people need an image to attach to be able to get past that I don't know what to do block. And Jody, everybody goes through imposter syndrome. That's what that is. Like, I'm making this up, right? But at the end of the day, who cares if you're making it up? But I always tell people too, like, don't get too attached to the information you get, right? Like, just take it and park it to the side until you know how to use it. Because a lot of people will get very carried away. And then we all have wants and desires and things like that we want to happen and we want to be true. And so, like, you don't want to hear that and then say, well, this is going to happen. Maybe it will, but like, put it to the side, because, you know, non-attachment and disentanglement, all those things are things that we're working through too. And some people, there are tricksters, there are all kinds of things out there. And so don't get carried away with what you get. Just put it to the side until you know how to use it. That's what I always tell people.
Right. Yeah. Finding that sacred neutral perspective, right? And that is obviously for the ones that get read, and also the ones that are reading and that are learning to read. And it's like, you know, not having any expectations, not sending out any projections. I think that's particularly important when you read someone, right? When you help to read someone, that you're not dainting this whole thing, you know, with your own projections. You know, and that's kind of an oxymoron in a way, because, you know, you come up with it, right? You see it, and that takes a lot of trust that whatever does come up. And I think the best way to look at it is, you know, if whatever you come up with is received in a way, because so often people would just say, oh my God, yes, that makes a lot of sense, you know. And that's a nice validation at the same time. Not that we're seeking validation, but that's good too, you know. And often you will see something they have absolutely no idea that is in their records. And it will take years and months and years for them to actually acknowledge that when I had that reading, that made a lot of sense. And you will never know about it. They will never come back and say, yes, you were right. And that's why, you know, you can't have an ego in this whole thing. And when I talk about ego, you can't be attached to any outcome in this thing, like Jane was saying.
Well, and I think, you know, the other part of that is discernment, right? It's like Jen is discerning what information is relevant, right? But I think we all have to do that for ourselves also every day, right? Like you can get a whole huge download from, you know, a number of different sources, but what is actionable now? What is the energy that you're working with now? And then what can be, you know, put on the shelf for a later date?
I would add for people getting, go ahead, Mary.
No, you go.
For people that are just starting to learn accessing that kind of information, if it doesn't come from love, it isn't real, right? So if it doesn't feel like love, then just toss it and disconnect that, because any information that we're going to get from our records, from our higher selves, from our guides, it's not going to come from a place of mischief or malice. It's going to come from a place of love. And so that is one way to easily start to use your discernment, is getting a feel for the information that's coming in. If it's telling you to do something, that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel right, then like turn it off.
That was just about what I was going to say. How do we do discernment? How do we know when to say something? And that's what you were just saying. Who else has impulses, how they know when to say something and when not, or what? How do you guys discern information when you receive it?
I mean, for me, I have a very quick yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when information is coming in, it's like, okay, there's an energy resonance, right? And I think we've talked about like connecting with the energy of your body, right? And the energy of your name as your yes, the energy of not your name as your not yes. So if you're not sure, that's a little trick you can do to help just boost your intuition. Get to know what your body feels like when you say your name. And then, for me, it's like a knowingness of yes, a knowingness of no.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. Anyone else? Mary, you work a lot with clients as well. How do you discern when to give them the juicy things and when to say, nope, they're not ready for that, without judging? How do you know?
It's a great question, Martina, and I'm just after joining you. So you were discussing this as I just came in. And I was thinking to myself as I was listening to Jen there and Tanya, how do I know? And it's very hard to say actually how I know. There's a kind of I think for me it has to do with being centered in myself. And I think if I'm centered in myself and in my own presence and my own energy, I won't do anything in haste, and I'll just know. I think it has to do with that centeredness for me. Because when I'm with the client, I don't actually kind of think about it too much. It's more about some sort of knowing deep inside me, and it's like something just has processed itself to a point where it's right now to say it, or it's right now to do something, or to bring something to their attention, or to bring something to my own attention. And again, it's centeredness. I think if I was to just put a word on it, Martina, I think that's what it is. How present am I in the situation to myself?
Yeah. It's that intention focused awareness of yourself. You do
Yeah.
stuff because you are of service, and you want to foster well-being. And like Jen said, you want to work with love on this one, whatever that
Yes.
means for you,
Yeah.
instead of just doing it because you're doing it for money, or because you want to have people rip off, or just
Yeah.
offer.
I liked that, yeah, working with love, because I think when you're working with that energy, it's always, is this for my highest good and the highest good of the other person? And I think that's always a good question to ask yourself, because if it's for the highest good of everybody involved, then it's love, it's pure love. It's you're not harming anybody, or the intention is love. And I think the intention is nearly more important than the actual doing of it. I think if the intention is coming from a place of love, somehow it always works out that love comes through.
Always.
Well, and that speaks to the topic today, intentional focused awareness, right? So
Okay.
setting that intention and focusing on that frequency of energy, right? Well, being aware of that frequency of love, right? We all know what that feels like, gratefully. You know, that when we have set the intention and have that focus, right? That's the frequency and energy that comes through.
Mm.
which is also then the cultivation of wisdom, because that's how you should also cultivate wisdom. It's always
Mm.
in the lookout for the love frequency, and then also for the greater good, you know.
Yeah.
And I suppose we can flip the coin on this one as well. It's also a knowingness and certain intelligence and understanding of not putting yourself into a position where you're creating more karma. Because if you're going into a reading like this, where you actually afflicting somebody with stuff that they can't handle, it will always stab you. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. So if if you're one of those away from organized people, keep that in mind. Being of service has to have that fostering of well-being and that love that, that is all part, that mutual contribution, because otherwise it will backfire. And if it doesn't backfire in this particular relationship with this client, it will certainly backfire on a different timeline or on a different, dimensional sort of shard connection with you. Because this is where you have to always remember, we're not just coming in with our physical bodies here. We are now spirit. So, and I think we had this conversation last time. As soon as you go into a session like that and you consider yourself, the intention is spirit talking to spirit.
Yeah.
And then it becomes interesting because, that's my contribution I want to throw in there, because I seem to have an agreement between my body and spirit that on a physical, I can trust whatever comes out. And even if it's harsh at times, it has made a contribution, because otherwise it wouldn't come out of my mouth. And that sounds slightly, oh yeah, who do you think you are? This has been years of practice where I've had clients where I said absolutely nothing and I'm thinking, oh God, what's going on? Why I'm not talking, because they couldn't receive anything. And it wasn't just clients, it was family members, friends, anything like that. And then you get the other ones where you can't shut up. And it's almost like the body knows, the mouth knows, or whatever, the tongue knows, the tongue that is connected to the heart, or going back to the love, it's like, look at your breath. Look at the breath, how is your client breathing? If the heartbeat is going like this, then you need to take it back. You need to just, bring in some stillness and all of this. So it's as much as it is a spiritual thing and you're working as spirit, but you're using your physicality and the other person's physicality in order to gauge what kind of information can come through.
I was listening to, I love that, Martina. I think that, these are tools that whether you're looking at the Akashic record or not, right? They're tools that all of us can incorporate into daily living. Last night we were watching an interview with, I don't know if you know this lady, Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. And she was saying, the guy who was interviewing her was saying, well, have you talked to, is there anyone that you want to ask questions to? Have you talked to any celebrities? Have you talked to, and she just said, I never thought about that, right? Because my intention is for spirit to bring to me the people who need resolution and healing, right? And so that's what spirit brings, right, to her. Those are the people that show up in front of her. And she also said, and I see things very similar, that spirit will show her a little film strip, right? And she doesn't know what it is. Sometimes it's like tire skid marks, or a certain type of tie, or toast and eggs. She doesn't know. She'll just see the movie and she'll know that it's relating to that person, and then so she'll say it, and that's part of what brings the healing to the people that she works with. So that was a really interesting interview. She'd never even thought about asking questions to any celebrity crossed over or whatever. It's just not what she does, right? So that intentional focused awareness always brings her to the resolution that she's working with with the other individual.
Amazing. And I love you mentioned the metaphorical representations, because that's really, really important, because when we go into this spirit communication space, it's not necessarily just through very, you know, like specific words. So it can be, and it is as well, but very often there's a translation that is taking place, right? Like a channeler almost, you know, if you're not channel a specific being, or if you channel your higher self, you know, your source or whatever you want to call it. Like I think Jane said it, there's this data stream that's coming in, and you unplug it, and sometimes it's literally, it's like you know, a metaphorical representation that comes in, and a lot of that is in dreams. So we can actually use our dreams to practice, you know, all of those. And this is not a show about Akashic record reading. This is about focused intention focused awareness. Akashic reading is just one of those things that we can do. So even in a dream time, all these metaphors that are coming through, write them down and then start putting it together so you can have a reading for yourself, right?
I can use the example from this morning. I mean, my dream last night. I was dreaming that there were people in brown uniforms sitting in a room. And for me, it was obvious they were prisoners. They were a mix of male and female people. I did not know any of them. And they were trying to escape. And they were trying to escape through different rooms. And suddenly the female prisoners became actually, they helped the male prisoners to escape. And they turned into police officers without changing the uniform, but they turned into like officers or guards, and they knew what the prisoners were doing, that they were trying to escape, but they nonetheless helped them. So we had the discussion this morning about, you know, the freeing of, you know, that some people, and especially female people, might be there to help, you know, unprison others, you know, that feel prisoned or imprisoned. And it's nothing that is bad about it, you know. It's like liberation in a sense.
I think
Go.
I love what you're saying there, Sandrine, because I know you two went to Greenwich yesterday, and we were talking earlier about the time, like the time loop that I was seeing. And I see that you were dreaming about that as I'm listening to your, like when you're talking, I can see the images of those people, right? I'm getting the little film strip, but I'm also seeing that it was a veil that you two punctured when you were there, that where there was energy trapped, and now that energy can start to be released. And those souls who are bound in that space can cross over.
Beautiful, and they can all give us money because we've show us the money.
Did we not say that we're not going to talk about that?
No, but you know, there has to be an exchange, Pips.
Yes.
I'm here. I'm going to the car boot on Monday, so hello. You
Yeah,
know?
so all of you souls who were released yesterday, you know, send Sandrine and Martina some energetic gratitude. And it can show up in all different forms.
Exactly. Now that's intention-focused awareness. I love it.
No, maybe you're going to find that 100-pound, you know, when you walk out your door.
Just adding to the timing of that, today is Beltane, right? Which is when the veil is one of the thinnest. It's one of the thinnest. Right. And the way to celebrate and acknowledge it is by fire. So I worked on it last night. I've got my burn pit set up. I'm gonna have a huge fire tonight. I worked on all the loading of it and the prayers last night, and tonight I'm gonna light it. So I will honor both of you at my Beltane fire tonight for your service.
Oh yes, thank you. And I think we'll follow suit. We're gonna burn some shit too.
Yeah, we do that.
Still, you make me some food first, and then I'll make the fire.
No problem. We do that, no problem. But it's, yeah, oh my goodness, there's so much going on currently, and it's, the freeing, I mean, we were just also discussing about not really business ideas, you know, it's not, we're not on the monetizing thing, but some of the reasons why both our energetic profiles are here. It's like, you know, we are the ones, I'm the one that, and I'm stepping more and more into this, the spaciousness that I'm giving people, you know, and I think this is like, this is why I'm here. I'm here to have and give that space for the people to come and actually then resolve things within it. And this is probably also my way of talking about the academy. You know, you were talking about the embassy. For me, it's like also where people then can come in a more academic way without a medical issue, in a sense, you know, and then finding the resolve by finding out, you know, what it is through questioning and experience.
Yeah. You know, I could like to ask, because I don't have much experience about the Akashic record. However, I was thinking about the concerning that I think what Jenda mentioned before, that we had to be aware of what we step in, if it's something that we don't feel that is from love. And when people talking about that we are living multidimensional existence, that we are in experiencing different life experience, then if I looking for myself to step in to find some information about myself, how I can discerning what of those experience I'm stepping in. And when Martina, you mentioned about the focus, intention, and focus, and what's the other letter? I forgot. Intention, focus.
Intentional focused awareness. It's
okay, awareness. Okay. Yeah, I was remember about one video I saw from Dolores Cannons, that she said that we are creator beings, that we create with our thought. And one line that really caught my attention, that she said, if you can see it in your mind, it has to be manifested, because it's the universal law. That's why they said that we have to pay attention to what we're thinking. And that when you mentioned here about intention, focus, and awareness, I have to be very aware about what my thoughts are co-created with the collection. Because I am a creator, because my thoughts are scenes that are manifest in the FL, in the collected mind, and the planet mind, and the human mind, all those entangling things that happen that we are not aware of. Then in this case, if I'm looking to get in touch with my Akashic record, I will have to be very specific what I'm looking for to avoid myself to step in information that I don't need in this right moment. That's what I was trying to figure out, how I can, be certainty that what I'm stepping in is something that I need right now. Like you said, that you can give people information that I don't need it. Now if I step myself looking for information or for assistance, for help or something, then how can be myself aware that I'm not stepping in some experience, I'm living another system at the same time. I don't know if I may explain myself.
No, I think we hear you. I mean, you mentioned something very important, like the thought, every thought creates, you know, and this is why consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. And those thoughts float around, and then I have the same thought maybe, and then they meet because the frequency, matches. And then, we all think the same thought, and then we have a little thought cloud, then EN thought cloud, and then that creates to you have more density to it, and it heightens the awareness there. So it's like Edgar Cayce said, mind is the builder. I cannot let go of the mind, because we need the mind. It builds. This is how we create, with the mind, right? Now, I think from what we've known you, and I'll speak for myself here, over the years I've seen you have a capacity that is very natural. you know, the less you think, the better you are. The less you worry about anything, because it just comes natural. Things just happen to you. So I think for you, just choose. I would say just choose your spirit now. Your spirit. Everything else just evolves out of that spirit. And everything is good. Everything is complete. Everything is perfect. So when you start from there, you will recognize when there's something coming in that's imperfect. By flipping the coin and say everything is perfect, then it's so much easier to perceive, feel, see, smell, whatever you want to call it, when there's something not right, instead of wading through all the shit that is not right. And also focus thing, intention, focused awareness. The more you focus on perfection that you already are, the more you're going to step into that bubble, into that thought bubble where everyone else sees their own spiritual perfection and non-separation from the body, and the body just being the tool for the expression of that spiritual, expression.
I think too, I love that, Martina, because there's a knowingness. It's like once you have that knowingness that all is in perfection, right? And divine timing, things fall into place, they flow in a better way. I think too, when bringing in information, one of the intentions that we can focus on is just what information do I need right now that is going to help my path, right? I always say my greatest good, Earth's greatest good, and the greatest good of all, right? So coming from that place of love, loving, kind, loving intention, it's like, what information do I need to know right now that's going to be the most helpful on my journey today?
Yeah, that can help.
And I think it's about trusting that process as well. Trusting that you'll only be given what you need at any given time. And I think if you trust that process, your mind won't go into overdrive, kind of wondering if I'm going to be getting information right now that I don't need, or am I getting the right information? I think once you just trust what's coming through, it takes that kind of anxiety out of it. And I think that all is well. I remember one time in the family, I was going through a worrying time about something. And I used to find that, if I was driving the car, if my mind had time to wander, it used to create the most awful scenarios of what could happen. This could happen, and then it'd be like, oh my God, and it would go from one thing to another. And it was like, I used to just say, stop, all is well, all will be well. And it used to just completely dissolve it. It would disappear because I just took the energy out of it. But if I didn't, I'd have gone mad. But it's just, I think for me that word trust comes into it a lot when it comes to that kind of thing, because there's so much information around us all the time that we're constantly downloading, decoding. What are we doing with it? There's just so much. It's information overload. So I think that, when I felt information overload back then, I think I kind of decided, you know what, this is actually very tiring. So I'm just going to trust that anything I need will come through, and the rest of it I don't need to bother about. It's not going to come anywhere near me. So, it sounds really simple, but you know what? It works.
It's like they say that if I'm thinking about the forks, I instantly, the mind bring the snack in the plate, the table, everything is like a leak of information that just one thing bring over. When we worry about something, all the worries from everything else coming in the plate.
Yeah, and the mind loves to go on a trip with all of that, what?
And life is an experimentation. So there is no mistake, that it's always trial and error. And just having the knowingness, again, that's an understanding. It's intelligent understanding that there's infinite possibilities, and every thought creates. So if you think a thought and you get that sense of, oh, okay, destroy and uncreate that thought in your head. It's there anyway, floating around, but it's no longer, affecting you, and create a different one. Make a different choice. We have choices all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And every choice creates, like Tanya said, ask the question, because it creates an awareness. Intention, focused awareness is allowing yourself to choose infinitely. And we have talked about love today again. It includes everything, it judges nothing, because love is the fabric of existence. It cannot judge. It allows the existence of a good thought, of a positive thought, and a negative thought. Because without love, there is no negativity, there is no positivity. So there is no judgment, and that's what we have to go back to. And that's why there's only choice, that we keep on choosing.
I keep thinking of this story that one of my Reiki master students told me, where she was working with someone who was doing a reading for her and wanted to see her spirit guides. And Shelley, her name's Shelley. Shelley said, well, I know what the spirit guide looks like that she was talking to. And I knew that she would have a really hard time handling the image because the being wasn't human. And so she said to her guide, can you show this person just your hand? Right. And so this, image comes in of a, sort of like a reptilian, like a snake skin type hand. And the woman who was doing the reading said, oh, that being's not human. And Shelley's like, yeah, that's true. I'm not ready, I'm not ready to see maybe the whole being. Right. So there was an awareness, right, that Shelley had and said, okay, I'm going to just request that only a little tiny bit of this being is shown to her because otherwise she might lose her shit. And that was the information that particular person could handle at the moment, right? So there was an intuitive awareness, right, on Shelley's part that okay, wait a minute, maybe full disclosure is not quite the right thing for this person at this moment.
I think remote viewing, non-local reality, working outside of the constraints and limitations of time and space, is the responsibility to be sacred neutral, like we said early on. And God, I totally lost what I was going to say. Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, do you know what came to
See,
my
this is
mind?
what happens to me. It's like, okay, don't say this. Whatever
When you were trying to say something, I also remember something that, we heard before in many different versions. And Andrew used to say that awareness is a big responsibility, because we're going to receive depending the amount of responsibility that we can handle. Because if I had a lot of information and lots knowing, and I'm not able to hold that space to receive all that knowingness and all those information, then it's more harmful than helpful, right? And I guess that's why I catch when you open your mouth. I always remember that part. The more I know, the more responsibility I have to be open mind and awareness at the same time, and be responsible on my act. Because that's why even in the Christian world, they said to say the one that know more how to teach the other one that doesn't know, but you have to be more concerning about their action, because their action, because they are the one that know in the moment, can affect many people around them.
But you see, this is the thing, Hamini, there's a sting attached to responsibility when you not look at it for what it actually is. Because it's not about torturing yourself, you know, into higher service and that. It's the ability to respond. Yeah. The higher your frequency is and the more awareness you have, the more you have the ability to intend a certain focus. Yeah, that's what responsibility is. It's got such a bad rap because it's been misidentified and misportrayed, really. And we all, lots of us, what are we doing? We are responding to life. And if we haven't learned a lot and if we are on a low frequency because of whatever reason, this is what we came in, then we don't have the ability. So that means we can't, you know, go out there and do big readings and put things together for other people that would actually be detrimental to their well-being. We don't have the ability to respond to such a task. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Whatever you have the ability to respond to, you have the awareness level that's there. That's my take on this. Because I'm sick and tired of saying, oh, you're responsible for this, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what responsibility is. If I wouldn't have the ability to respond to it, I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't come out of my mouth. It takes the stress away, especially now we can say that, where we're moving into this energy, where we're supposed to be moving away from hardship and super challenge and, you know, doing things that we are not supposed to be doing. Just challenge yourself if you want to challenge yourself to respond ably to what's coming towards you.
And they're all of equal importance as well. I think that, you know, we have the idea that somebody who has the ability to do something that is very obvious, like maybe doing a great reading for somebody or whatever, that's what we should be all aspiring to, and that's wonderful. And if you could only do that or achieve that, whereas the person doing the most menial task that is seen by nobody, but is done with grace and love, is just as important as the person who is doing what we would see as the very big job, you know, because that's more coming from, I suppose, our conditioning and our conditioning in the corporate world and in the material world, where things are better than and less than. And that doesn't really apply when it comes to the awareness of the response. The awareness of the response is so simple, it's so pure, it's so sacred, and it can be so unseen.
Spirit is spirit. There is no spirit better than the other.
No.
You know, it's all a different expression of spirit. There's no hierarchy. How many times have we said, you know, we have to get out of competition. We have to get out of that kind of hierarchy between amongst humanity, where we fight. Because frankly, you know, nobody who is not who hasn't got the ability to read the Akash is even going to be drawn to listen to this, what we're talking about. Right.
But, you know, I would have to admit myself that I would feel myself, you know, that people who can do something that I feel I'm not able to do, like read the Akash or be a channeler for a spirit who has passed, you know, I would have a longing to be able to do that. And I would think that it was somehow better than what I'm able to do, that my responses are less than because they're not of any value to the greater community at large, or I'm not able to do this or to do that. So I think even for me, I do have to remind myself that my response is equally good. You know, I do have to remind myself of that.
We all have to. We all have. That's the old conditioning.
Well, and it's what needs to be heard in the moment also.
Yes.
You know, listen to how, you know, beautiful and eloquently you speak, Mary, and the tone of your voice brings me back to like ancient times in the
Really?
land that you live. Yeah, it's like a song that calls a depth and a breadth, you know, to the land that you're on. And I have, you know, Celtic roots also, so I
Mhm,
resonate with
Nice.
that
mhm,
song of
Okay.
remembering, right? That I hear in your words and hear in your voice, right? I feel that the
Thank you for
the
that,
green
because I'm not
lands,
aware of that.
nature,
Thank you.
and
Mm.
yeah. So you know, you're holding more energy than you give yourself credit for. You're
mhm.
holding, you know, a depth of energy that bubbles up,
Mhm.
right? When you're around. So
Yeah, I
Okay.
see
can
that.
put my hand in that one because every time I interact with Mary, I feel myself over there in the field in that country. I feel myself. I have strong connection with past incarnation in Egypt. That was be connected with that land. And every time I see Mary, I can see myself like over there in the field, looking the greenness of the area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much. I'm not aware of
yes,
any of this at all, but it's great. Thank you.
it's not a feather, it's on you, Mary.
I I feel this is a general reminder that, and we spoke about this afternoon. I mean, okay, I'm at Martina's place and we are speaking all the time. So, I mean, before we we keel over at around 9 o'clock in the evening because we're just talking all the time. But I mean, I think we should just all, and especially for the listeners out there that feel like, oh no, I cannot do that. Oh no, I'm not yet. Just step into it. Honestly, just step into it. We all have an ability. We all are able to either feel something, smell something, know something, get aware of it. And this is also one part of this intentional focused awareness, is that put your intention there, and as soon as you feel it and you're like, what is this, just investigate, go behind it, just or let it, you know, just get it over, let it go over you, and then and move with it, or whatever. I mean, this is something that just step into it, you know. Take it on, and be brave about it, and I think then there will, so many things will probably open up, and you will notice that it's all good, you know. It's all good, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Sabine. You know, I was thinking that sometimes in our office, that the area that I do from real estate, you know, sometimes people want to impose other people. You gotta you gotta do that, and you have to show that you are the higher producer. You know, this craziness. And sometimes I just stop and say, listen, you do what you feel comfortable doing to yourself. There's no competition. You don't have to show that you are better to anybody. You just got to feel comfortable. What do you want able to do? Nobody's better than anybody. Nobody's is higher or lower. You know, I always bring the awareness. Like as Mary was mentioned, because we have in program with this competition of how much money I can make, or how much I can do, or how much people follow me. All this craziness that we have in board now, you know, with all this social media, you know, it's like doesn't matter. Just the little thing, like Mary was saying, just spend 1 minute, 2 minutes talking with somebody that feel down and bring their, you know, their confidence back is more value than anything. And every time I'm around my family or my friends, I always bring that out, because we feel so beaten up because if we don't make that much money, or if we don't do that much stuff. And then when I see people like that down because they don't feel that they are not worthy because they have not done something what supposedly would be happy to do it, I said, listen, everybody came here to learn something different, experience something. Your experience is not my experience. I don't have to do what other people do. I have to do what I feel I can do now. And then that's helping me a lot, not to run to where everybody's running. That's helping me a little to calm down myself when I trying to show that I can do more, and having a challenge because we having conditioner for that, you know. But I don't look for competition. I don't see anybody better or lower than me, because they're always the experience. I am managing right now not to judge. If I feel myself like I went to that row, I stop myself right away because everybody can see with the glasses that they have on. They're not going to see my experience. They're going to see from their experience.
So you just really beautifully explained that we're moving from doingness into beingness. Spirit is beingness, and that doesn't mean that you'll never action anything. That's a different story. It's that, you know, that's like the mouse running or the hamster running on the wheel. That's, you get off the wheel, get off the hamster wheel and just be. And then we're using Mary as a perfect example here, because Mary shows us a beautiful example of beingness here. And she doesn't even acknowledge it at times for herself, but we can see it. This is something we have to acknowledge for other people. Just because you can't appreciate it or acknowledge it at times, the others will. The others will.
Yeah.
And then the next level of that is, okay, well, can she receive what we just said to her? And she can. She said, thank you. So how many times have you received a compliment, right, from somebody? No, it's okay. No. Receiving is being, is perceiving. That's all part of that. We're really stepping away from the do, hardship, challenge, blah, 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 into the still mountain. Just be the mountain, right? But allow yourself, because yes, of course, you know, we cannot see our own mirror at times, but that's why we have these other peeps. And now we need to allow them to tell us what we can't see. And there used to be, oh, you're this and you shouldn't be doing that and you should and would and blah. And now it's actually compliments that coming through much more. So question is, intention, focused awareness. The key to be able to take this to the next level is receiving and being.
Yeah, it's one thing to ask for information that you need.
Yes.
It's another thing entirely to receive it as it comes, right? And you know, when you're setting an intention of bringing information in, right, the greatest good information for yourself, sometimes it's going to come from an unexpected source, right? It might come as an image from your cat or your dog or the tree in your backyard or one of your guides, right? Or one of the forest people, the Sasquatch. There's all kinds of, as this wheat from chaff is being separated energetically, and the lower frequencies are sort of dropping and the higher frequencies are like cream rising to the top, right? We're starting to communicate in a sphere of energy where not everything is going to come through as you expect, right? So letting go of the expectation around how you think that energy and communication is going to come through, I think is really important also. You know, just be able to see it like it is instead of putting a filter on it.
Yeah. Well, let's add a pork chop here or a lamb chop, you know, that wants to, you know, give you the lovely taste and the juiciness of it. Receive it, you know, and all of this, what Tanya just said, I mean, that is remote viewing. Because that's viewing into a non-local reality that we haven't acknowledged yet. So it's not necessary that we have to go into the, you know, I don't know, any government, you know, and find out what's going. No, it's all that. It's right here.
But you know, Martina, that's so beautiful that you and Tanya mentioned that, because when Tanya started talking, I was remember that I was participating in a group in 2014 about the quantum field, and one of the guy, the main person that was exposing the information, he said, everybody is here, be sure to go to, you know, he mentioned a specific person, this person came from Monchatas and she brought a code that whoever is going to be connected, just go to her and give a hug. And now my vision now is like we don't have even to be together physically. Because, for example, what Tanya mentioned, what you mentioned, I can see myself in Maryland, just seeing her. I don't have to be close to her and giving her a hug, physical hug, because just seeing her through here, I can get that connection. It's that bring me the awareness that Tanya was mentioned, the veil having very thin. There's not so much separation like we have created before, that belief system that we're separate. Now, if we can see it and we can accept it, that we are not separate, that was illusion, that we are really connected, then there's no physical separation because we are energetic and frequency connected. Then there's no separation at all. Because my feeling is that I had to see Mary and that I'm aware right now that I'm over there experiencing in the land, right? Then that's mean because everything is more open now for our awareness, the level of our consciousness. We don't have to be physically to be able to experience what the other person experienced. That's why I was feeling in the moment with Tanya explaining and you, Martina, the last
That's
portion.
fantastic, I think, Armenia, actually, because you've made me aware in saying that I too can imagine when I see you and Tanya and Martina, I imagine the environment that you're in, but I wasn't doing that with awareness. I was doing that in unawareness, but you've made me aware that I do that. And I've also remembered when you were saying that it's not just remote viewing, I think, that we can do. I think there's a kind of remote sensing, because I remember when Andrew was writing the book and I was part of that group, I remember we were talking one evening about that idea of sensory and what we can sense. And I was telling him about ads I saw on television, that I'm not a smoker, right? I have never smoked, but I could smell the smoke in my room. And I realized that I could also, if I saw a meal, I could actually get a sense of the smell and the taste of the meal. And it was very real. It was very real, particularly with the smoking, and I don't smoke. Obviously, I do eat. But I mean, I was really amazed with the smoking piece. But it ties in with what you were saying about looking at a person and immediately it's almost like and I suppose in some sense it's like doing an akashic, because you immediately can see the land and the culture and you can get a sense straight away of all of that about them. And I was doing that without even thinking about it, but it was all happening until you said that when you look at me, you get a sense of Ireland. And I thought, yeah, I think I'm doing that too, when I thought about it. Yeah. Lovely.
That's wonderful.
That's discernment for you, Herminia. Yeah, that's your discernment. That's how you just felt it. You just look at the joy that's how you work. You've got this natural ability to discern, what's you and what's not.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me add to this, because sometimes you get those impulses. Like Sandrine and I were walking on this high street today, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, what is this lavender smell? There was no lavender, right? We walked next to a butcher shop, right? And lavender and soaps. I'm like, for God's sake, that's interesting. We both got it. And I was like, okay, well, that's normal, right? It's not normal. Just talking about it today, we could have actually explored that further. So what is actually, who or what wants to come into contact with us? And we just totally say, yeah, okay, we'll just smell it. Yeah, that's obviously normal. No. So how often do we have these, connections? And it's almost like an impulse. You're being impulse. You're being, it's that we talk about connecting intentionally, you know, with our awareness, but let's not forget the other side, right? They want to talk to us too. They, above, below, wherever they come from, right?
Yeah.
So let's acknowledge that too, more and more and more, and make stories out of it, our own stories. You know, talk about this, and then it becomes real. And the more attention we focus onto something, the more real it becomes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, actually, Martina. And it's like what I was saying earlier about the amount of information that's around us all the time. And we're processing it all the time, and we're not even thinking about it or, you know, aware of it, really. We're amazing, actually. You know, the technology of the body is amazing in what it's handling all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary, I sent you that picture, right? I went to the car boot on last Sunday, and I found the New Grange Triscola, whatever it's called, the three spirals, right?
Yes.
And literally, I thought, okay, I have to buy a jacket, because I lost my jacket on the way to Peru running. You know, that light jacket. I said, oh, I need a jacket because I need to go somewhere, right? Of course, I buy this jacket as you do at the car park. So I've got the jacket. I got the three, what's it called, Mary? New Grange symbol.
It's New Grange. Oh, it's like the infinity symbol, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like the infinity symbol. Yeah.
It's
And
the
then I
triple
thought,
It's a
spiral, the
Celtic, it's a
Trinity.
Celtic design. Yeah.
It's a
Go on.
Celtic. It's in the other room somewhere. So anyway, and I was like, immediately I had to take a picture, the back and the front, sent it to Mary. I said, Mary, I'm coming. I have to come this year. This was it. This was it. That was the last bit that was needed. Because I've been saying that for a long time, that I'm going to go up. You know, talking to Jen about it. And this last bit, together with the jacket, was, okay, you got to go this year.
Wow.
So be in expectance, because I will be going.
Absolutely. You're all welcome, by the way. Anyone that wants to come.
And that's the thing. And it's so weird. It was that little thing that triggered that.
Yeah. And I had been talking of I wanted to go over to visit you for quite a while. And I've been saying that, oh, I must go over, I must go over. And then all of a sudden it just started coming together. And it wasn't what I had expected that I was going to go over. I may, but it was the other seemed to be taking precedence over that, because that seemed right. It seemed the right thing to be doing. That
Are
you
you
would
coming?
come.
You haven't told me. Triskelon.
No, I'm not coming. No, I mean that
Oh,
she would come here is the right thing, I think.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. There is divine timing. You know, when we talk about divine timing, you know, you can think things forever, and all of a sudden, you know, and that's when the action comes.
Yes.
When you take action.
Yes.
And that was just me sending you the picture. That was the action taking.
And I suppose when I hear you saying that, Martina, I immediately think as well, you know, about times in my life, and I suppose everybody else would be the same, where those two things come together and I let that go. I walk past that flag. You know, there are times when that happens, and I think it might come round again, because it does. I think it does come round again. So sometimes if we just miss it at the time, or we don't respond to that, what action was needed, there's always another time that will come round again on the road.
Absolutely. Infinite choices. Infinite.
Yeah.
So I was just, it's funny that you were bringing up New Grange, because Cynthia and I were just talking about New Grange yesterday, and that triple spiral to me represents the energetic trinity, right? The trinity that we're working with in multiple frequencies. They call it the Triskelion, that triple spiral.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, it's like the Om sign. It's like the Om. So the beginning, the birth, the sustenance of life, and then the death process. And that's pretty much what we are circling around at the moment, simultaneously in the moment. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, intention focused awareness is so much. You can start from sitting in this room here now, thinking of what's happening in the other room, and start with that. What can I see in the other room or perceive in any way? And then actually go over there and check it out, you know? And so often you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of practice you can start off with,
Yeah.
if you are so inclined.
Yeah.
If you're not, well, then don't watch the show, forget about it, do something else, because it's
Yeah.
not something that you need to do right now.
Yeah.
Never.
I think we have to keep reminding ourselves not get distracted by all the information, as Mary mentioned, because I was reading one of the book. They said that we are receiving like a 60,000 thoughts a day. Now our brain is processing like a 70 billion bit of information daily. And then and I think about the intention, how powerful that it is, because I remind myself right now, I sit down here in one corner of my house in a little desk, and then when we came to see this house, we have so like maybe 10 different houses, and my daughter was insisting for me to pick up the house, and I came here in the back, and there was a lake. I had this strong connection with the water. I touched the water. As soon as I touched the water, I felt that this was the house. And then when we were in the process, it was, some kind of challenge. And I thought myself, my mind, and that's why I was remembered the Lord Canons. I say, if you can see in your mind, it must be manifested because the law. Even if we don't, my thought, maybe if we don't manifest it physically, anyway, in the plasma of creation is already there. And I saw myself sit down here where I sit down right now. And when we're doing the process. And if I show you the picture that I select at that time, that I saw imagine myself in that little house, it's the same picture of this house. The scenario, the water, the little mountains, everything is, and I sit down where I saw myself before we bought the house. Sit down just after where I sit down right now.
Yeah. You know
It's
what?
the intention.
Well, that's foreboding, that's the foresight that we have. That's how we simultaneously, this is where future is not something that is alien. It's already there, and we're seeing. It's a little bit like I was saying, my first book that I wrote was a German version, and it was my friend of mine at school. I was 14, a friend of mine at school. She could only draw mice and elephants. So I wrote a story about mice and elephants. And many years, somebody made it into a little booklet, like obviously not digital or anything. And a friend of mine, he brought it and said, oh, look. I said, oh my God, let me read it, and I read it. And it was a story of my life. It was about a mouse that used to live in the countryside and got tired and wanted to see the big wide world, and went into the big wide world and met an elephant, and then later on, both the elephant and the mouse went back to the countryside and started living there together. And so really, when I was like, oh my God, and there's a couple of more details that were in it, and it's like, so these are the things that we're not aware of. We're doing it. Yeah. So anyone who still beats himself up not doing the thing right, you're already doing it. The majority of it is acknowledging that you're doing it. And there's your question on a daily basis. What am I not acknowledging? That if I would acknowledge it, would take that tension, that stress, that seeking away, and show me who I'm actually be. Every time you go into a straw, oh my God, I need this, any need, any demand you have on yourself. What am I not acknowledging here? Is now the time for me to see that, to bring it out into the open, or is not? Is it not? It's all happened already. We've heard this 1,000 times. We've come back from the future. It's already happened. So nothing bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're just unraveling that movie, that we're going backwards, like Sandrine would say, you know, there, I've knitted my pullover, it's done. Now I'm just taking that thread and just put it back into the wool, into the ball, right? Sounds frustrating too, but it takes so much stress away. And it takes the seeking away. And there's nothing wrong with seeking, because we know we continuously grow and all of that, but let it allow, go with it, flow with the growth. There is no such thing. You can never stop growing.
Or knowing.
Or knowing, or being, or perceiving, or receiving. It's time to let that conditioning go.
Yeah. Allowing that what you need will just pop up to the surface, like the cork, and be in your awareness.
And as Tanya said, the veil has lifted. So allow yourself to see.
I was working with a client one time, and get a lot of messages from Earth Mother in the form of animal spirits. And in this case, the image of the crocodile came up for this person. And after the session was done, I walked downstairs, and in the middle of my living room was one of my dog's toys that was all the way in the bottom of the basket, not used, never touched, an alligator. I thought, oh, look at that thought and that image and that energy, you know, was available through, you know, through the household. And what did my dog do? She went and pulled it out. And I saw that alligator in the center of the room, and I just laughed so hard. I thought, of course, like, why wouldn't it be there?
A confirmation, a confirmation.
That's right, Tanya. You did see that alligator. You did see that crocodile. Yeah.
Instant manifestation. Right.
Thank you so much. It's very refreshing.
Yeah. Well, I think we've come to the end. We're almost there. We didn't do anything super practical, but we can
No,
still
it's okay.
at some stage, you know. So Beltane is today. The first that's Beltane. Thanks for saying that, Jen, because
Can I just tell you that in ancient Ireland, a practice developed in around the 1560 era, and it still continues, I think, in some parts of the country today, that people used to collect lily of the valley flowers, and they were primroses usually, and they would leave them on the doorstep on May Day. And they would do that sort of very early in the morning before people got up. So when they'd open their door, they would be greeted by a little bunch of primroses. Primroses are kind of known as the flowers of May here. But I must look it up again, actually, as to what the meaning of the primrose is, because there's obviously a meaning in the primrose. I must look that up to see what it means. But it's just a way of greeting one another and greeting the first day of summer. It's the first day of summer season for us. Meteorologically, summer is in June, but it's actually the first day of summer is May, June, July, the summer months. So just thought I'd share that with you.
No, thank you. Didn't we see the lily of the valley yesterday in the plantation? We walked up to the Isabella plantation in the in Richmond Park, and they have those. I think they're huge though, lilies of the valley. Are they big? No.
To be honest, I don't think so. I don't know,
We got the
Martina.
wrong
I
lily.
just know what the primroses are like. Do you know primroses?
Yeah.
They're really the Mayflower.
In the
Yeah.
nursery we went to. Yeah. Amazing.
But
And
I must look up lily of the valley. I don't know how big they are or what they're like at all. Somebody is saying here they bought them, are they?
They're what? Jenny's saying they the valley this week to plant in some yeah, well, here you go.
What is she saying?
She's saying I bought some lilies of the valley this week to plant in some shady areas in my yard. You see?
Oh, yes,
You
yes,
already knew you had to do that.
yes.
Synchronicities. And
Well-
also the Triskelion is her logo.
Mhm,
See?
mhm.
Oh no,
Thank
so
you.
the lily of the valley, no, this is what I was just wondering. No, the lily of the valley is the Maiglöckchen. So it's the so in France actually now today you would be getting a bunch of lily of the valleys. It's these little, it's the little.
Yes, Maiglöckchen, I know. The snow
Are
is
they
It's
little
just-
primroses? Are they like primroses?
Are they
No?
not like
No,
snow
they look
globes?
more like bluebells, except they're white.
Oh, right.
They're white,
okay.
yes, exactly, and they have a
Yeah,
very
and-
strong. They have a very nice smell. It's
Scent, yeah.
French. They are called muguet.
Ah, there's a photo. Look in the chat, girls.
Yes.
There they
Oh,
is.
is it?
Thank you for that, Tanya.
Ah, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
yeah.
beautiful. Look at the little
But they're
bells.
poisonous. It's not what I ate.
And they
them.
smell
They
amazing.
are.
Yeah, they do. They smell amazing.
Yeah.
And if you would be in France today, you would be receiving a bunch of them.
Oh,
Wow.
Everyone would be getting one. Yes.
And then those are the
And these are the
primroses that I have
primroses.
brought.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the primroses. Yeah, they're
We
lovely.
saw those
Glanville.
yesterday as well, Marina.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
wild primroses have a beautiful smell. The ones that you buy don't really have as strong a smell, but the ones that grow out, under the trees in the wild areas, oh my God, the smell is beautiful. And it has medicinal purposes too, that people use it for medicinal reasons as well. Herbs and
But
things like that.
yeah, the lily of the valley, the scents was one of the first also being used in
Perfume.
in perfume. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a very
lovely.
old one. Yeah, yeah.
The primroses, they have different varieties, like different colors. I
Mhm.
had like
Yes.
the yellow one in my front yard, the
Mhm.
yellow one.
Yeah, I have
the
a bunch
hybrid
planted
ones,
in a
the
box.
hybrids are different colors, but the wild ones are white with the center yellow.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
and they're the
Mhm.
ones that you'll see all over the areas of the country here that's kind of undisturbed, in kind of forestry areas and around trees, and they all look the same and they've all a beautiful scent. But you will
Wow.
get other ones, there's hybrids in different colors, which are beautiful, but
Okay.
they don't have the strong scent.
Yes.
Now,
Exactly.
Mary, as you were talking about that scent, I got a whiff of it.
Did you really? Oh, wow.
I could see the
That's
people walking.
wonderful.
I could see the people walking, collecting them.
You will, yes, and people will collect them and bring them in to their houses and put them into water so that the scent will spread. And they often put up a May altar, which is kind of again the greeting of May Day and all of that. And they put up a May altar in their houses. Now, sometimes here in Ireland, that would be associated as well with Mother Mary, and a statue of her would be put on the altar. And the month of May here is dedicated actually in the religious kind of area to Mary. She's honored in this month a lot, and a lot of the hymns that are sung, in church are Mary's kind of hymns, well, what is there's one, I can't think of it actually now off the top of my head. There's one in Irish that's beautiful. Arwira Waher. It's
What is it?
Arwira Waher means Mother Mary.
Sing it.
I only know a few lines of it.
Yeah. Sing it.
Arwira Waher. Solonge gross Hispania Arura wash Awira Awarje is Mishivoyasa is Mishael.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness.
Wonderful.
Oh, Mary, your face looks so energized, so beautiful. I can see the love in your face.
Well, I love singing. I'm in a choir and I just love singing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, and I wish you all a very happy May Day.
Thank
Happy May
you.
Day.
Thank you.
Happy May Day,
May all
girls.
your-
Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thanks for all
you.
your
May all your
comments.
baskets be
Yeah.
full of
Bye-bye.
flowers.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Enjoy Vegas.
Bye. Love for
Take care.
everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.